The Atlantic Intracoastal Waterway begins its winding journey down the East Coast in Norfolk, Virginia. Immediately upon entering the canal, cruisers find themselves surrounded by giant naval vessels and assorted commercial traffic. And then some 10 miles down the river, just past the Interstate Highway Bridge, you are faced with the first navigational decision of your southbound trip. You can stay in the main Albemarle Canal and suffer the wake of commercial traffic and large powerboats, or you can make a turn to starboard and enter the Great Dismal Swamp Canal. Because the canal is higher than sea level, it must be entered and exited by locks located at each end of the system. It was our first time down the Intercoastal and our first time in a lock. Fortunately for us, lock attendant Robert Peake was there to walk us through the process. He's a wonderfully gregarious man and knows every unusual fact there is to know about the canal and its history. The Great Dismal Swamp Canal is the oldest canal system in the United States. The canal was surveyed by George Washington, and for over 200 years, commercial cargo traversed its 20-mile length. Today, the great majority of traffic consists of snowbirds making their biannual pilgrimage to and from various tropical destinations. There's not a wealth of public information about the canal, and rumors about the canal's status abound. But here's the straight scoop. The canal has been the target of the Budget Cutters Act for several years now. I'm happy to report that since our trip, thanks to lobbying by recreational boaters, the canal has been funded for another year, but it promises to be a continuing fight. As to navigability, well, admittedly the water is shallow. The depth is 6 foot, but a constant 6 foot thanks to locks at both ends of the canal. We drew 5'3" and never hit bottom. Like many sailboats, we suffer from poor forward visibility. My creative solution was to move a fold-up barroom high chair out to the poop deck and steer with my feet. In keeping with our Beverly Hillbillies theme, Kathy prepared us a gourmet meal of chili dogs, while Dingy Dan strung his hammock and relaxed with his friend Humpy the dog.
Life is good.
The Great Dismal Swamp Canal has a lovely visitor center along its banks. And in one of the great navigational errors since Columbus missed India by a mere half a planet, we somehow missed the visitor center and proceeded to the southern terminus of the canal. However, the last lock opening of the day was at 3 o'clock, and it was well past that, so we were stuck for the night. So we backtracked in search of the lost visitor center. Eventually, we solved the mystery. A few miles back, we had passed a giant drag line dredging the canal. With visions of the mammoth machine's multi-ton bucket crashing through our hull, my attention had been totally fixed on the dredging operation, which was taking place just past the visitor center. Hence, we cruised right past it. A poor excuse for my navigational inadequacies, perhaps, but to be fair, there were no boats docked there at the time of our initial passage. It was a different story upon our return, as a dozen other cruisers had docked for the night at the center, making it somewhat easier to find. We rafted up and spent a pleasant night amongst our fellow cruisers, many of whom we would meet again several times during our voyage down the Intracoastal Waterway.